I can catch that on fire. So the only thing keeping that smoke from catching on fire is the temperature of that smoke. That smoke is still too cool to catch on fire until it hits an outside heat source. So, same thing right down in here. And there's a Goldilocks zone. You see you have this Goldilocks zone where it will burn? So that's that too rich, too lean. So as you get the right amount of burnables versus not.
Nope, not a big enough one bag.
Okay, so it doesn't take a lot to get it going again, right? So what's that? So what is that? So that's what we call, that's vent point ignition. So the fire on the inside is probably not burning very much at all. See how quick that was to take out? Watch some air come back in there. Good enough to collate it? Amen. Give it a little bit more juice to get it going again. Choke that down and let that get a little hotter because we're limiting the oxygen, right? So we're going to make the fire itself a little warmer.
So right there it was kind of like, now it just ignited.
I killed it again.
You felt like there was a breathing.
You're on the wrong spot.
I know. There was only a thing that you could wear that would give you filtered air.
It's that campfire that
Put that
follows
light
you
up
everywhere
again.
you go.
Right? Exactly what it smells like.
My wife always swears that it.
Yeah, some people are less happy than others.
And there was a little bit of flame coming from the compartment on the other side.
Oh,
All it takes is just that little bit of additional air, right? So I'm going to choke this thing down a little bit. Start opening here. So, like I said, we have lots of smoke in here, right? And that's because of the pressure, like you said. So we have pressure. We're pushing through that door. So as I reach in here and I go and open it, we're going to give it some more air. You think the smoke is hot enough to catch on fire?
Oh, yeah.
At this point?
Probably right at exit point.
Let's see. Got a little bit of heat to it.
oh yeah.
Oh yeah. That was a little bit of a mini flash over.
So a little
there.
mini flashover you got
Yeah.
going on there.
It flashed back through both rooms.
Let me close this up. I'm gonna add a few more things of fuel in here.
Yeah. Flash it over again.
Let's see if we can get this compartment fully engulfed. In essence, the flashover essentially blew the entire fire out, which can happen. There's a lot of air.
It's like the max around 300 degrees. And
At 300 degrees, it sits right there. Smoke up here. So this compartment is completely sealed off from everything, but it is getting some smoke in it. But it's definitely a tenable environment. If somebody's living in there, sealed off, they could definitely still be alive in that. Choke this down, and now watch what the fire's doing here. So now the fire's, what are we getting out of this one?
Searching for that convection or that path of.
Yeah, it's looking for oxygen, right?
Yeah.
I found it.
Of course, all the glue in that wood probably helps too.
Once again, that vent point ignition where there's enough, all it's needing is just a little air. So I get this right. So now if I do this, I'm not sure if I can get enough air, enough in there. So if I spray it like this,
Pushing it through.
you notice what's it doing to the fire on the other side?
Just pushing it through.
Why is it pushing?
Pressure.
The hydraulic pressure of your.
So
the cold air is going in, the hot air is going out.
correct. So because I'm using a fog pattern, I'm entraining a lot of air along with that stream. Okay? So it talks about like if you are working on a fire, think about the pattern of water that you're using when you're spraying a fire. So you really want to, if you're spraying from the outside, you really want to be using a straight stream because you're trying to not entrain more air into the area, right? You're just trying to put water in there. And you're trying to cool the compartment. So you're going to be spraying towards the ceiling of that compartment. Hand me that garden hose. Thank you. So, same thing. Then we're pushing it. Now if I direct it up to the top, what have I done?
Knock the heat down.
I pull the heat out of the material that's up there and kind of reset that fire. So you cooled that whole compartment down, and it buys you time. So a lot of times if we're making ready to make entry into the structure or doing something like that, spraying water with the correct hose stream from the outside will reset that fire and give you more time.
It really didn't take that much water either.
No, you saw how little water that took. And it's just a matter of putting that water in a way that will direct those droplets across the interior of that room without adding a lot of air. Okay? And we'll come back in and watch a video of that afterwards. So now we're going to do this. So if I choke this down again, it's a really hot smoke, right? Lots of hot smoke. So what are we getting up here? What are we seeing up here now? Lots of smoke up here. Why? Again, pressure, right?
Looking for a release point.
Looking for a place to breathe. So I'm going to take away. I'm going to pull this floor out. So now we've got, still have that bidirectional flow. Hey, Kristen,
Yeah.
I'm gonna have you come over here and help me now. I got really dark smoke, right? And now what do we have? So essentially we have what is in essence a chimney. I'll have you maybe add this and put it, not yet. So now we're creating a chimney. So this would be the same thing if you were to go downstairs, upstairs. Stand off to the side a little bit. Now close that back up again. Now we're back to this. No, go ahead and pull it out. You can step back. That's fine. Step back. So now we've got a chimney. So what happens if we are working in a stairwell, going up a stairwell, and somebody decides it's a great idea to ventilate the downstairs? Step back.
Whoa.
Right?
Nice.
You add unintended air, and immediately you've turned that stairwell into a chimney. Same thing in terms of a basement. Basement. So now we've got a smoke explosion, flap, or backdraft type situation. So with the smoke, as you can see, is still hot enough to burn, right?
Yeah.
Whoa.
There you
And
go.
flash.
There's
Okay.
that delayed backdraft it said.
Yep. So continuing. See that smoke? Just looking. So now we've got. So now when we've got bidirectional flow, we've lost our bidirectional flow, right? So we've got unidirectional flow. That tells us that it's a multi-compartment fire. or that somewhere else in the structure there's a vent. So as opposed to having the fire coming back out the same way it came in, somewhere there's a vent. So we add more oxygen, it's going to go again. So what happens, I may have you spray a little. So now, go ahead and give it a little squirt. Yeah. So that's that same transitional attack. So now we've reset the fire with a very, very little amount of water. Okay? Just for giggles, let's add a piece of styrofoam. See it change in the smoke color a little bit? Still, a lot of this thing's involved at this point. So now roof ventilation, right? Christian, you want to put that spot back in? It might have expanded. You in there? Yeah. Okay.
go.
Now we're gonna open it back up. We're gonna get a little flash here. Okay. So now we're gonna open up the roof vent. Roof vent. So what are we getting out of the roof?
The chimney effect, yeah.
So, but not a lot, because when you vent a roof, you also have to make sure you take the ceiling on the inside of the building, right? If you don't take your ceiling, now you take your ceiling, what happens?
Now you got that direct.
You've given a pathway for that smoke to go. Do you see all that smoke is pulling in now? Anything else you guys want to play with in terms of controlling smoke? And now we're
gone black.
so now it's really black. So that's super dense smoke, right? So we're getting that right mix, right? The correct mix, that correct ratio that lets that fire burn. That air to fuel ratio. Now it's finally at the point where it's hot enough to burn on its own. So that's hot enough to burn on its own and sustain combustion.
So what would be the scenario if it started on the second story?
If the fire started on the second floor, it would be similar. It's always, the good thing about starting the second floor is it's always safer to fight fire either at or below the fire floor, because everything wants to go up away from you.
But how good is it on pulling oxygen up?
It's going to entrain oxygen for sure. I don't know if I can get it to just burn from the second floor. It's definitely going to entrain oxygen.
So let's say you pull up and you have this. It's just coming out of the roof.
It's a great question. So how do we deal with that?
More
So
than likely-
can we reset that fire?
More than likely, it's an attic fire.
Well,
If it's just in the roof, it's going to be an attic fire, right? So can we go in here and? If
but
it's
this
just
is
that
not an
fire-
attic fire. It's all the way down here.
So if it's down there, you can reset that fire. When you first show up, throw a hose line out, reset the fire. Hit it real quick with one more. So you see how the temperatures drop? If you got your thermal, you'll notice the temperatures drop. As soon as you hit it one more time. So it doesn't take a lot of water to reset the fire. Do me a favor, hit it with a fog pattern. See what it's doing to the top? See how much air it's pushing into that fire? So now we're getting close to being burnt through.
Yeah, you're about to burn through the
Interior wall.
Yeah, the interior wall is gone. So we're almost done with this prop. Anything else we want to try and mess with? So let's see if the ceiling is gone. Is the ceiling still there?
Richard, could you do it coordinated?
So what's that?
Could
you do it coordinated where you have the roof closed and you do the attack at the bottom and then basically like
Yeah, let's do that. So let's close this back up. So this room, by the way, the floor in this is still good. That's still tenable space. A lot of smoke in there, but it's still tenable.
That'd be dead from smoke inhalation.
Yeah, likely.
So let's do what we could.
So let's get this going again. It's still hot enough that it should reignite. So coordinated fire attack. So we've got this right here going on like this. We've got a fire. Might reset it quickly. Hit it with a quick little reset as we first arrive. If that doesn't put it out, in this case,
Why is it dead?
so now we've got that. So it is going. We're going to plan. And we know it's burning, so immediately we're going to get up on the roof and we are going to vent the roof. Right before you get off the roof, you're going to pull the ceiling inside. Right, now hit it with water quickly. Okay, hit it with water again. Okay. Let me do this. Once you've done that, inside you can actually, if you're inside the layer, using a little fog pattern is not a bad thing because it doesn't entrain any more oxygen. But what steam does, one, it expands to 1,700 times its initial volume, but as it cools, it also contracts.
You can see that fog pattern.
You can see, yeah.
Automatically get.
See the change in that? So that's fog. That's probably not going to ignite if I were to try and light that.
No, it wouldn't.
Because that's fog. Also notice that you go down here, see how much more tenable that space is down the bottom? Even though there's a lot of smoke up top because you basically knocked that fire down completely. And like I said, the ventilation makes for, if coordinated, makes for a more tenable atmosphere. Anything else? Any other questions? Or is anything else anybody like to play with?
Pretty cool how
That was amazing.
little
But
water.
if your fire starts on, if your fire is still only burning on the first floor and you have a 2-story structure,
Now the second story has actually become involved in the fire. It's not just smoke. But once again, I think you can put it out with 3 or 4 little squirts.
Oh, yeah.
So now we've basically knocked down the fire in the first floor. So even just by doing that, even just the creation of steam inside that first compartment, that steam is cooling the entire compartment down and making conditions tenable in the entire structure because that steam is being drawn to an area of lower pressure where it will.
Because we could have done it with hammers and ruined the roof,
Sure.
but cedar could come in and just pull it off.
We'll let it burn. You want to put it out? Well, let it burn. We'll put it out.
Let it burn.
It feels kind of nice, kind of warm. Hold out here.
I found this at least a little educational.
This is great. This is very much. That was
The first one, like I said, it's the first one I've ever actually done. I've watched several of them.
Ooh, I've watched a number of these.